I moved into the quiet cul-de-sac on a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of street where kids rode their bikes barefoot and neighbors waved as they watered their lawns. The realtor had promised peace and quiet, exactly what I needed after the mess I'd escaped. For the first week, I'd barely left the house except for groceries and work. Every time I parked in the driveway, I felt exposed. My ex, Ryan, had never been one to let go easily. The last time I saw him, he was screaming in the parking lot of my old apartment complex, pounding on my car window as I drove away. I blocked him everywhere, changed my number, even quit my job to start over. By the seventh night, I noticed the car, a faded silver sedan, parked just far enough down the street to seem incidental. At first, I didn't think anything of it. People parked randomly in neighborhoods all the time. But when I left for work the next morning, it was still there. And when I came home that night, there it was again. Same car, same spot. 3 nights later, I finally worked up the courage to walk past it. My heart hammered as I approached, pretending to take my trash out to the curb. The windows were tinted, the plates out of state. Dust covered the hood, except for one clean streak, like a finger had been dragged across it recently. That night I barely slept. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. I locked and relocked the doors, double-checked the windows, kept my phone clutched in my hand. The next morning, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe a neighbor's guest? Maybe someone fixing up a house nearby? But when I glanced out the kitchen window that evening and saw the glint of silver under the streetlight, I knew. Ryan used to drive a silver sedan. Same dent in the rear bumper. Same cracked TAILLGG dot. It was almost midnight when I heard the first knock. Dot 3 slow, deliberate taps on my front door. I froze on the couch, remote slipping from my hand. The knocking didn't come again, but I saw the shadow move past the frosted glass. Tall, broad shoulders, a baseball cap pulled low. I didn't open the door. I didn't breathe until the sound of footsteps faded. The next morning, I found something wedged under the windshield wiper of my car. A note scribbled in Ryan's unmistakable handwriting. You can't hide forever. The following days blurred together in a cycle of dread. The car never left. Some nights I'd see a cigarette tip glowing in the darkness. Other nights I swore I heard someone pacing outside my bedroom window. I called the police twice. Both times, by the time they arrived, the car was gone. No proof. No witnesses. One evening, as I carried groceries inside, I noticed something off. The welcome mat by my door was flipped upside down. Small, maybe meaningless, but Ryan used to do that. A little signal he was nearby. A private joke that now felt like a threat. I installed cameras the next day. It was raining hard the night it happened. Thunder shook the windows as I sat in bed, scrolling through my phone. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of glass breaking, heart pounding. I grabbed the baseball bat from under my bed and crept toward the living room. The window above the sink was shattered. Muddy footprints led across the tile. A voice came from the dark. You moved without telling me. I swung blindly, connecting with something solid, a grunt, then silence. I ran out the front door, barefoot into the rain, screaming for help. When the police arrived, Ryan was gone. The only trace was blood smeared on the broken window frame and the silver sedan abandoned down the street. I never saw him again, but I still wake up some nights thinking I hear those 3 slow knocks at my door. I moved into the apartment complex because it was cheap, not because it was nice. The building reeked of cigarette smoke and mildew. The walls thin enough to hear every argument and every creak of the stairwell outside. But after what happened, with Emily, I didn't have many options left. Emily wasn't just my ex. She was a nightmare. The relationship had gone from perfect to terrifying in a matter of months. Obsession, constant calls, showing up at my work uninvited. When I finally left her, she vandalized my car and followed me for weeks. The restraining order should have ended it. I DN single quotes T dot by the 3rd night in a new place. I started hearing it. Soft scratching at my door. then whispers. Muffled, almost like someone speaking through cupped hands, too faint to make out the words. The first time it happened, I chalked it up to noisy neighbors. By the fourth night, I wasn't so sure. The hallway outside my apartment always felt wrong. The flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of wet concrete from the stairwell, the constant hum of the old elevator. But at night, it was worse. I started noticing scratches around my doorframe. Small at first, like someone had been picking at the paint with their fingernails. By the end of the week, deep gouges marred the wood near the lock dot. I asked the landlord about it. He shrugged. Probably kids messing around. Don't worry about it. That night, I heard it again. The whispers, the scratching. Only this time, I pressed my ear to the door, and I heard my name. I found the first note under my door 2 nights. Later, why won't you talk to me? No signature. No handwriting I recognized, but I didn't need to. I knew it was Emily got over the next week. More notes appeared. Slipped under my door, left on my doormat, taped to my peephole. Some begged me to let her in. Others were darker. I know you're alone. I hear you breathing. You can't hide from me in here? I started stacking furniture against the door at night. Sleep became impossible. Late one night, after hours of hearing whispers, I grabbed my phone and decided to confront whoever was out there. I yanked the door open, ready to shout. The hallway was empty, but then I heard it, a faint shuffle of feet coming from the stairwell. I followed the sound down 2 flights, the fluorescent lights above buzzing and flickering. At the landing between the second and the first floor, I saw something that froze me in place. A sleeping bag, a pile of fast food wrappers, empty, water bottles. Someone had been living in the stairwell. I called the police. They searched the building, but found nothing. Said she must have slipped out when I went to check. 2 nights later, the whispers came back. This time, I didn't open the door. I looked through the peephole instead. Emily was standing there. Her hair was greasy and matted. Her clothes torn, eyes wide and unblinking. She was whispering my name over and over, scratching at the door with broken fingernails. I backed away slowly and called 911. The operator stayed on the line as I locked myself in the bathroom. By the time officers arrived, Emily was gone. But they found her things in the stairwell again, along with a knife wrapped in cloth. I moved out a week later. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I still hear that whisper behind my door. The cabin had been in my family for decades. A quiet place by the lake where we spent summers fishing, swimming, and telling stories by the fire. After everything that happened with my ex, Jason, it felt like the perfect place to disappear. For a while, there was no cell service, no neighbors, and barely any traffic on the dirt road that led there. Exactly what I needed. The first 2 days were blissfully quiet. I cooked simple meals, read old books by the fireplace, and listened to the wind move through the pines. It almost felt like I could breathe again. But on the 3rd night, I saw the light, a faint glimmer from across the lake, like someone holding a flashlight, signaling. Back and forth. Back and forth that the next morning, I found footprints in the mud near the dock. Not mine. They were larger, heavier, leading from the tree line to the water's edge and back again. I scanned the forest, heart pounding, but saw nothing. That night, I locked the doors and closed every curtain. As I lay in bed, I heard it. Faint rustling outside, twigs snapping underfoot. Then silence. The next morning, something new. A small pile of stones stacked neatly on the porch steps. Jason used to do that when we camped together. Little markers, he called them. My stomach turned cold. By the 5th day, paranoia had settled in. I jumped at every creak of the cabin, every gust of wind against the window. While searching the storage shed out back, I found something chilling. A recently opened can of beans, half empty, sitting on the workbench. My family hadn't been there in months. Someone had been staying here. That night, the scratching started, slow, deliberate, at the back door. When I grabbed my flashlight and shone it through the window, I saw nothing, just the reflection of the lake. But when I turned back toward the living room, I noticed the front door was unlocked. I always locked it, thought it was raining hard on the sixth night when I woke to the sound of footsteps inside the cabin. Heavy, deliberate. I grabbed the fireplace poker and crept toward the kitchen. In the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains, I saw him. Jason. Gaunt, wild-eyed, soaked to the bone. He stood in the doorway, smiling. "You can't run from me here," he whispered. I bolted for the back door, crashing through into the rain-soaked forest. Branches tore at my arms and face as I ran blindly toward the lake. Behind me, Jason's footsteps pounded, closer and closer. I reached the dock, rain pelting down so hard I could barely see. The old rowboat was still tied there, rocking violently in the wind. I untied it with shaking hands, shoving off just as Jason burst through the trees, screaming my name. He lunged for the edge of the boat, missed, and splashed into the freezing water. For a moment, everything was chaos. Thunder, rain, Jason thrashing in the lake. Then silence. I don't know if he drowned or swam to shore. By the time I reached the other side of the lake, there was no sign of him. I never went back to the cabin. But sometimes, late at night, I dream of that flashlight on the other side of the lake. Back and forth, back and forth.